When a resident wanders out of a nursing home unnoticed, it can be terrifying. And worse, it's almost never a true accident. It's the direct result of a negligent lack of supervision. Families are often left scrambling for answers, only to hear vague excuses about, well, they're confused or it's dementia, while the nursing home does what they do best, and that's to try to avoid responsibility for their own negligent actions. My name's David Terry. I'm a Missouri nursing home abuse and neglect lawyer, and I've handled multiple elopement cases where residents are seriously injured or even died because the nursing home either ignored or disregarded the warning signs that this could happen. In this video, I'll explain how these incidents actually happen, what your rights are, and when a facility's failure crosses the line into legal negligence so that you know exactly what to do if it happens to your loved one. So let's dive right in. Elopement is the term used when a resident leaves a nursing home without the staff knowing or giving permission. It's not the same as just going for a supervised walk or leaving with their family. In these cases, the resident leaves the facility unnoticed and alone, many times without proper clothing, medication, or the ability to stay safe. In Missouri, we see this most often with residents who have memory issues like dementia or Alzheimer's. Elopement is scary for family members and it's dangerous for the residents. The risks of injury are very real. Exposure to weather, getting lost, falls, getting hit by a car, all of which can lead to serious injuries or even death. The questions we're answering today are simple. How does this even happen in the first place? And when does it cross the line into negligence? So let's talk about the most common ways that I see elopement happen at Missouri nursing homes. These aren't just rare freak accidents. They're often the result of things that could have and should have been handled much better than they were. Let's start with unlocked doors and poor security. This is a big one. Most Missouri nursing homes are required to use keypads, alarms, or special locks on exit doors, especially in their memory care units. But sometimes they don't work, they get turned off, or they're propped open for convenience of the staff members. Let me tell you about a real-life case that happened in southern Missouri where a woman left the facility through a side door and wandered off from the facility. She ended up dying a very tragic death. Here's the thing. The door had an alarm, and when the alarm went off, staff members were supposed to respond. However, staff members used that door, so they just quit paying attention to the alarm. These lapses in door security are totally preventable. If a facility knows residents are at risk of wandering and fails to keep doors secure or fails to pay attention to warning signs on supposedly secure doors, well, that is a huge red flag. Second is understaffing and inadequate supervision. Many Missouri nursing homes complain that they're experiencing staffing shortages, but being short-staffed is never an excuse for residents to be unsupervised, especially those residents who are labeled at risk for elopement. Now, in a Kansas City area case I'm familiar with, there was a resident who suffered with Alzheimer's disease. He had wandered from the facility before, and on this day, again, managed to leave the nursing home without being seen. He'd been gone a long time before he was noticed missing, and he wandered outside in 100-degree weather before falling down a ravine, and he ended up dying there. Police searched for over 9 hours before he was found. One of the allegations in that case was that the facility was not sufficiently staffed, and as a result, they did not provide adequate supervision. Staffing numbers matter, but so does supervision. Even with enough staff on paper, if facility employees are not watching the exits or checking on residents regularly, elopements are almost inevitable. They're just going to happen. And under Missouri law, it's the facility's job to have enough trained staff members to meet the needs of every resident. No excuses. Number 3, let's talk about the failure to assess the elopement risk. Not every resident is at high risk for elopement, but it is the nursing home's duty to figure it out. They're to figure out who is at risk, and this means doing a proper assessment when somebody is admitted and whenever their condition changes. So Missouri law expects facilities to regularly update each resident's care plan. If a resident starts showing signs of confusion or restlessness or tries to leave, the care plan should be updated immediately. Now, it would not be unheard of for a family member to tell the facility, hey, Mom tends to wander off in the evenings. She has something that makes her want to leave and get restless in the evenings. They can tell the facility that, but there may be no mention of that in her chart. That is critical information that a nursing home needs to take seriously. And without a documented plan to keep her safe, despite knowing about this risk, she would be able to walk out unnoticed while everyone was at dinner. That sort of event is just not a mistake. That is a system failure. Fourth, let's talk about broken or ignored alarm systems. Many Missouri facilities use door alarms or wearable WanderGuard bracelets for at-risk residents, but these are only as good as the staff who respond to them. I mentioned before how one facility had a door alarm, but they ignored it, which frankly is no different than having no alarm at all. But that's just the tip of the iceberg here. Sometimes in cases involving elopements, a common problem is that alarms malfunction. Sometimes they don't work, and sometimes they do. Other times there's no alarms at all, and sometimes staff members just simply ignore the alarms because they're always going off, they say. Now, some nursing homes try to combat elopement by having residents wear bracelets called a WanderGuard, and this is a really good thing. If the bracelet passes a certain point in the facility, the alarm will go off, and that alerts the staff. However, these bracelets are only as good as the staff lets them be. For the bracelet to be effective, staff members have to respond when the alarm sounds. Now, I've heard of instances where this bracelet alarm goes off as the resident's trying to leave the facility, but instead of responding, staff members might silence the alarm. They either assume it's a malfunction, they assume that somebody else is going to take care of it, or they're just too lazy to check on it. Alarm fatigue, laziness, poor maintenance, these are all warning signs that a facility is not prioritizing resident safety. Look, facilities have a legal duty to keep residents safe from elopement. If they use door alarms or WanderGuard bracelets, then those items must be maintained in working order and staff must respond when alarms sound. Ignoring them can just have catastrophic consequences, and it happens more than people think. So finally, let's talk about poor communication between staff and family members. Oftentimes, the people who know a resident best are their family members. If a daughter tells the staff, "Mom's been trying to go home lately, she's getting anxious and she wants to go home," that's crucial information. But in many cases, that warning never makes it to the resident chart, and it's not passed on to all the various shifts at the facility. I've had family members tell me that they've begged employees for extra supervision of their loved ones after wandering incidents, but it never happened. Sometimes care plans were just not updated, or other staff members were not provided important information about the resident's desire to leave the facility. And in some cases, their family members eventually were successful in wandering away. Good communication is critical. And if your concerns as a family member are ignored, or if vital information doesn't reach all the staff members, I'm telling you, that's a recipe for disaster. Now let's get to the heart of today's topic. When is an elopement just a tragic accident, and when is it actually negligence under Missouri law? The answer comes down to whether the nursing home did what a reasonable, careful facility would have done. Negligence isn't just about a bad outcome. It's about the steps, or the lack of steps, that led to the bad outcome. Here are some clear signs an elopement may be the result of negligence by the Missouri nursing home. Number 1, the resident's risk of wandering was known but ignored or not addressed in their care plan. Number 2, staff didn't follow the care plan. For example, they failed to do regular checks on the resident. Number 3, security systems like door alarms or locks or cameras just weren't working, or they were shut off, or they weren't responded to in time. 4th, the facility was regularly understaffed and management didn't do anything to fix it. That's a big one. 5th, staff failed to communicate with each other or their families about the residents' risks. If any of these sound familiar, there's a strong argument that your loved one's elopement wasn't just bad luck, that it was preventable, that it was a breakdown in the system, it was a systemic failure. So under Missouri law, nursing homes are required to provide residents with adequate supervision and safe environments. In fact, the Missouri regulatory rules specifically require that facilities must take necessary steps to prevent accidents, including elopement. So if a facility fails to do this and a resident is injured, they can be held responsible for the harm that results. Sometimes this means civil lawsuits for damages, but it can also lead to citations, fines, or even loss of their license by state agencies. Now, to drive this home, let me give you a scenario that's common in elopement cases here in Missouri. So you have a resident who's placed in a room near an unlocked patio door, for example. The family warns staff about the wandering risk, but the facility doesn't update the care plan, or the care plan's updated, but not everybody on staff knows about it. When the resident walks out unnoticed and then suffers an injury, the family discovers the facility failed basic safety protocols, no proper assessment, inadequate supervision, and an unsecured exit. Now, there may be multiple offshoots from that scenario, different specific facts and circumstances, but the common element in just about every single elopement case here in Missouri is inadequate supervision, a lack of training, and staff members just not taking the alarm seriously. So let's talk about what you can do right now if you're worried about your loved one eloping from their nursing home. First, be proactive. Ask the nursing home specifically about their elopement policies. Do they do regular risk assessments? How many exits are there? Are these doors alarmed? Do they pay attention when the alarms go off? What do they do when the alarms go off? Second, make sure that your concerns are documented in writing. Don't just rely on verbal conversations. Send an email or a letter and keep a copy of that letter. You want to make sure that there's a paper trail, some kind of record. Meet with the staff and ask to see your loved one's care plan. Confirm that it lists any wandering risks and details steps to be taken to keep them safe. And check security features yourself. Ask to see how the alarms work and test them if you can. Check and see that they have a working surveillance system. So you need to know your rights. Under Missouri law, you have the right to be informed about your loved one's care and to participate in that planning. If something feels off, keep pushing for answers. And if an elopement does happen, demand a full investigation from the facility. If your loved one has eloped, that is a serious failure by the nursing home facility. Look, even if they were found quickly and without injury, don't let this slide. You need to take some steps. First, get clear details about what happened. Find out when it happened, how it happened, why it happened. Request to review the incident report. Ask the facility what changes are being made to prevent this from ever happening again. Personally confirm that the changes have been made if they make those changes. And if you're not satisfied with the response, contact the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services to file a formal complaint. And reach out to an attorney who handles nursing home neglect cases. Even if you're unsure what went wrong, a good attorney can help you investigate and hopefully reach a conclusion that's satisfactory to you. And if the worst has happened, if your loved one was seriously injured or died after eloping from the facility, do not wait. You contact an attorney who handles these types of cases right away. Gathering evidence in these cases is crucial, and time matters. I'm telling you, nursing homes are masters at losing evidence or forgetting to pull the security feed before it gets erased. Nursing homes will act fast to protect themselves, and you should too. Elopement isn't just a careless moment. It's a symptom of bigger problems in a nursing home, of systemic failures that often leads up to the ownership level. Now, whether this happened because the facility chose to cut corners, or if it's just a lack of staff training, or just plain old neglect, these incidents are almost always preventable. The facility's job is to anticipate risks, act before something happens, and listen to families. When they fail in these ways, you have a right to use the law to seek justice for the injuries to your loved one. We've just covered exactly how nursing home elopement happens in Missouri and when it becomes more than an accident, when it's clear negligence. If you're worried about your loved one or you've had a scare, don't wait for a tragedy before taking action. Document everything. Demand real answers from the facility. And if you need help, reach out. If you want to go even deeper on how to make your loved one safe, make sure to watch our next video. What is a nursing home care plan? Your rights and what must be included. Now, this next video is packed with tips that can make all the difference in your loved one's day-to-day safety and their legal rights. So don't miss it. I'll see you over there.